Well, good evening, everyone. I am Forrest Mahan, and it is my honor to welcome you to the annual Edward Teller Lecture hosted by the Citizens for Nuclear Technology Awareness, or CNTA. It is a distinct honor to gather here tonight as we celebrate a remarkable milestone, the 75th anniversary of the Savannah River Site. For 3/4 of a century, the Savannah River Site has been a cornerstone of our nation's security and a vital economic engine for the central Savannah River area. From its rapid construction in the 1950s to support the Cold War effort to produce critical materials like tritium and plutonium, to its present-day missions in national security, environmental stewardship, and nuclear innovation, SRS has built a legacy of excellence and a future driven by dedication. As an educational organization, CNTA is proud to support the site's mission and share factual information about the benefits of nuclear technologies. The Teller Lecture, named in honor of the famed nuclear pioneer who inaugurated this series in 1992, serves as our premier community outreach program, bringing together community leaders, nuclear professionals, and students to discuss the vital role nuclear science plays in our world. Tonight, we not only reflect on the past achievements and the dedicated patriotic workforce that made them possible, but we also reflect and look ahead to the future of the site and the challenges it will address in the 21st century. Thank you all for being here tonight to honor the legacy and service and innovation of SRS. So let us begin. As Dr. Tom Burns will present the SRMC Science Scholarship Award. Thank you.
First off, I wanted to thank the CNTA for having this venue. Number one, what a fantastic resource, a pro-nuclear advocacy group. I know as a young engineer, when I first came to Savannah River with the Defense Nuclear Facility Safety Board, that I thought it was absolutely amazing to have an advocacy group with the voice and the passion of CNTA. So very, very pleased to be part of that. Anyway, as Forrest mentioned, I'm Dr. Tom Burns. I'm the president of Savannah River Mission Completion. We're the cleanup contractor for the legacy waste from the plutonium production from the 1950s on at the Savannah River Site. And we are proud to be the Science Scholarship sponsor, $10,000 scholarship for STEM students. This annual scholarship is awarded to a junior or senior at a college or university in South Carolina or Georgia who demonstrates an outstanding academic achievement in nuclear engineering or nuclear science or a directly related field, such as chemical, mechanical engineering, environmental science, material science, or so forth, that have applications to the nuclear field. The company I represent, which is a BWXT-led Savannah River Mission Completion, is a technology company that wants to ensure high-quality STEM students are able to find their way into the workforce. Thank you to the CNTA Scholarship Committee for their diligent work in reviewing the candidates and for ultimately choosing our winner. And I'm proud to tell you that Zachary Gardner is this year's winner. He's a very deserving recipient, as you'll hear. He couldn't be here tonight as he was flying home from the University of South Carolina, Columbia, to his hometown in Humboldt, Pennsylvania, but you'll still hear from him by video in just a moment. However, have no fear, he's received a scholarship and he'll be able to apply it to this semester's courses. While he isn't here, I wanted to tell you a little bit about him. Zachary's pursuing a bachelor's degree at USC in chemical engineering with a minor in nuclear engineering with an energy concentration. This past school year, he served as the vice president of the American Nuclear Society student chapter at USC, as well as the president of the American Chemical Society student chapter. Through these positions, he was able to discuss ways to connect students with nuclear energy professionals, as well as how to conduct educational outreach programs to explain the positives of nuclear energy in our world today. In his studies at USC, he conducted research by contributing to growing and obtaining data in support of the molten salt thermal properties database, a joint project between USC and Oak Ridge National Laboratory. He has said that he worked to develop an easily accessible database that assists in modeling nuclear fuel behavior and interaction at various temperatures and concentrations in a molten salt reactor. Following assisting in this project, he conducted more experimental thermodynamic measurements in a laboratory supporting molten salt corrosion phase behavior research for projects with multiple DOE laboratories. Over the summer of 2025, he participated in an internship program at the Savannah River National Laboratory working in the hydrogen isotope group on tritium technology. His career goal is to obtain a degree in chemical engineering and to enter a nuclear engineering or related PhD program. He added that he wants to obtain a PhD so that he might be able to work in a nuclear-related research field following graduation, whether at a DOE laboratory, a university, or an industry. I can tell him that as a person with a nuclear engineering PhD, he might find himself as the president of a company like ours one day. And as my former construction manager at SWPF, when I was running that project, would tell me all we need is just a few more PhDs to really help us out. So I'm glad to know that there's a bright and capable generation coming behind us and that Zachary will be leading the way. On behalf of the Savannah River Mission Completion, we appreciate CNTA allowing us to be a part of this prestigious Teller Lecture. Congratulations to Zachary, and as I leave the stage, I'll ask that we all watch a brief video from Zachary.
Hello, my name is Zachary Gardner, and I wanted to thank CNTA and SRMC for the incredible opportunity which they have provided me through the SRMC Science Scholarship Award. I first learned about CNTA while I was interning at the Savannah River site this summer, and I feel that CNTA's mission to help educate the public on the benefits of nuclear technology and nuclear energy greatly align with my own personal values and my own desire to positively contribute to the nuclear field. I'm currently a student at the University of South Carolina studying chemical engineering, and I'm participating in nuclear-related research here. Following graduation, I hope to go on and obtain a graduate degree in nuclear engineering and to finally participate in nuclear-related research. And along this path, I hope that I might be able to help contribute further to CNTA by engaging with the scientific community and the public about the great strides and the great innovations that are being developed in the nuclear field. CNTA is only going to get more and more relevant as we see a greater and greater interest in this country in pursuing the incredible benefits of nuclear energy and nuclear technology. I am very sorry that I could not make the lecture tonight. However, I hope that next semester I might be able to drive back down to Aiken and meet the incredible and wonderful people of the CNTA. Thank you very much again. I greatly appreciate it.
It is my privilege this evening to present the Nuclear Service Award from CNTA to a neighbor of mine. The purpose of this award is to recognize accomplishments in applying nuclear technology, advancing education in nuclear technology, increasing public awareness of the benefits of nuclear technology, and promoting and defending the safe and effective use of nuclear technology. Mindy Metz worked for several years for this SRS Citizens Advisory Board as their coordinator, and then for 15 years was the vice president of the SRS Community Research Organization, or Reuse Organization. While there, she established the Regional Nuclear Science Week Committee, which has reached over 30,000 people over the past 9 years. That's a lot of people. She is also on the International Steering Committee for the Nuclear Science Week. At the Community Reuse Organization, she directed the Nuclear Workforce Initiative. She is on the advisory board for nuclear energy technology at Augusta Tech, the Rad Protection Technology Advisory Committee at Aiken Tech. She also serves on the Georgia Cyber Center Workforce Committee, Board of Directors of CNTA and the SRS Museum, has published numerous papers on workforce development in the nuclear field. Also a proud graduate of Auburn University. If you're keeping score, that's 2 in a row for the Southeast Conference. Also the mother of 2 fine young men who were very reliable in feeding my cat and watching over my house when we would be gone. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Mindy Metz. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Just want to say thank you very much. This means a tremendous amount to me. But mostly what means a lot is just looking out and seeing so many of you, because it has been such a joy to work with all of you, so many of you through the years. This is an incredible community to be part of, and it's really just rich with so much more to come. Thank you very much.
I'm Carol Jansen, the chairperson of the Distinguished Scientist Award Committee, which is made up of 5 members, so we can't get a tie, of previous winners. And I'm probably the oldest member on that committee, and I'm chairperson. This Distinguished Scientist Award is presented annually to recognize regional people who have done outstanding science. And traditionally, we have pooled people from the South Carolina and Georgia region, and I'm pleased to announce that this next year, 2026, we are going to widen our scope and pool from the entire Southeast. So I hopefully will be seeing a lot of new people here. I'm also thrilled to announce that the Fred C. Davison Distinguished Scientist Award is going to Dr. Jean Rhodes, who has served as the director of the University of Georgia's Savannah River Ecology Lab for the last 12 years, and as director of the University of Georgia Research Institute since 2021. I won't read all of his accomplishments because I want to leave him have some time for remarks. And if you would come up, I will present your bowl. I guess we have to smile. No.
We have to, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I'll just have a few remarks. I want to thank CNTA for this honor. I really, really appreciate it. So interesting fact about me, well, a couple of things. Thank you for waiting to expand the scope of this until next year. That's really helpful, and I really appreciate it. The second thing is, so I'll just tell you real quick that the Savannah River site has already been really special to me, right? I grew up in Greenwood, South Carolina, right down the road, about 50 miles from here. And I did my master's work here in the early 80s. I came back some while I was doing my PhD work at Texas Tech in the 90s. And then I came and did a postdoc in the early 90s, or late 80s, early 90s. And then I went off and lived in the Midwest and worked at Purdue and lived in Colorado and worked at with the USDA. And then I got the invite to come back here, and I jumped at it. And I jumped at it because this is a really special place, right? The Savannah River site, this is an honor for me, but what it really honors is the opportunity that this site and this community offers. And for me, that's what I'll think about whenever I think about this, is all the wonderful opportunities I got just because I happened to land on the Savannah River site years ago. So thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Jim Mara, former executive director of CNTA and now currently serving as the CNTA Nuclear Technology Advisor and dealing with a lot of our outreach with education. And I am pleased to announce some awards tonight, the first being the CNTA Essay Contest. The goal of the CNTA Essay Contest is to increase high school student awareness of nuclear technologies and their impact on society. Successful essays require the students to integrate science, technology, social understanding, and the language arts. Over the course of the essay contest program, CNTA has provided over $100,000 to deserving students. The winners are invited to attend an Up and Atom breakfast coinciding with their summer break where they are recognized. But tonight, I'd just like to recognize by name those winners. The $1,000 winners were Jordan Boyle from Lake City High School, Wyatt Carnes from Aiken Scholars Academy, Blake Summers from Greenbrier High School, $750 winners, Trip Moyer from Midland Valley High School, Rihanna Waltower from Hepzibah High School, and the $500 winners were Jackson Green, Academy of Richmond County, Coral and Cairns from Lakeside High School, and Megan Arnold from North Augusta High School. As you can see, that's quite a spectrum of schools that are representative, and we're really proud that we have so many entries that are interested in this. So let's give them all a round of applause. CNTA partners with area educators to provide innovative instruction to area students. Grants are awarded for winning applications teaching all subjects and grades pre-K to 12th grade. The grants can be used to fund a project in any area of science, technology, engineering, or mathematics, with preference given to those that promote an increased understanding of radiation fundamentals and nuclear technologies. Again, winners are invited to attend an Up and Atom breakfast, coinciding with the teachers' summer breaks, where they are recognized. But today, I'd also like to recognize them once again. This year's 2025 Education Grant winners are Rhonda Smith from Blythe Elementary School, Amanda Waymer from Aiken Scholars Academy, Kayla Long from Community Christian Academy, Marco Vijagas of A. Dorothy Haynes Elementary School, Randall Williams, McBean Elementary School, and Brandy Harley from Redcliffe Elementary School. Let's give all of these winners a round of applause. So to commemorate the 25th anniversary of CNTA, the Aiken Technical College Nuclear Scholarship was established in 2016. The recipient of this annual award is a deserving second-year student enrolled in a nuclear program at ATC. The faculty and staff identify the student that will receive this award based on academic performance and other criteria, including desire to enter the workforce. This year's scholarship recipient is Tori Rutland. Tori is a native of North South Carolina and is majoring in radiation protection technology. We are fortunate enough to have Tori with us tonight. So Tori, if you would please stand to be recognized. We'll have plenty of time to talk with her, and in talking a discussion with Tori before the event, she is going to be interning this spring at the Savannah River site as part of her program, and I understand that SRNS, SRMC, and SRNL are all viable opportunities for her support. So I know folks from all companies are here tonight, so you may want to put in a good word with Tori as you can, just to try to snag her for your organization while you can. So Tori, thank you. We look forward to you joining us as a nuclear professional and definitely as a CNTA member. So thank you and good congratulations. So now it is my absolute pleasure to kick off tonight's program and introduce our moderator, Mary Beth Reed. Mary Beth is the Executive Vice President for New South Associates. New South Associates provides cultural research management services both nationally and internationally. Mary Beth was a co-founder of the organization. In her role, she has served as principal investigator for the Savannah River Site History Project for the Department of Energy for more than 25 years. and continues to work with the Cold War preservation planning and properties of the modern era. Mary Beth was named one of the outstanding women in historic preservation in Georgia in 2002 and received the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation's Marjorie Gregory Jewett Award for exceptional service in 2024. I will now pass this on to Mary Beth, who is going to introduce our guests that I am just so delighted to hear from tonight.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to be here, first of all, to celebrate the 75th anniversary. I'm retiring this year, so it kind of all melds together, having been a professional historian working on the history of the site. But tonight's a very special night. I'm here to introduce three exceptional people. They sit across from me in the panel. First to the left will go left to right. That's Margaret Roundtree, Ellen McNair, and Walt Joseph. These three actually witnessed the coming of the site and the establishment of the site. And their histories give us valuable insight into what it was like then. Not one of them has the same story. That's the most fun of what you're going to see. Each of them talk about different slices of the history of Savannah River Site. For Margaret Roundtree, a native of Dunbarton, you're going to hear a story of loss and a story of resilience. With Ellen McNair, she was a high school student, actually ready for graduation in Maryland when her dad got the job down here. We all know what it's like to be a senior in high school and have to move, or many of us have. And she's got a lot to talk about and how to become an Aikenite and how she became part of the community. Walt Joseph, yeah, he was fresh-faced. He was just married. He wanted something on his resume, as he put it, kind of make a mark in the world. So we're very pleased to have had oral history interviews with all three of these individuals. And from those, we've put together a short 15-minute, a little bit over that, video in which they talk about their history, because nothing's better than hearing it in their own words. Mike, can you play that for me, please?
When they first announced the plan, I had started working at the school in Bonn. They closed the school in Dumbarton, the high school in Dumbarton, in 1945. And I started to school in Bonn. We went on the school bus. And the first year was September of 45. And I graduated from Bonn High School in 1950, in May. And then, of course, that was the year they announced the plan. And in August, they hired me as secretary of superintendent of schools in Bonn. So I stayed in school and had a wonderful superintendent that taught me so much. He really gave me a foundation for life, because I didn't go beyond high school for an education. And I was at school, I worked. When I found out that they had announced the plan, they had announced it the night before, but we didn't hear about it. So when I got to school the next morning, they told me everything was in an uproar, that the plant was coming and that we would have to move, and all the horrors that would be with it. I remember so vividly standing there by the principal of the high school's desk, and he was a big old fella. I don't want to say he was fat, but he was pleasingly plump. And he said, "Margaret," he said, "this thing's going to be so big, they going to have sidewalks from Baltimore to Snellings." It never happened, but you know, it grew well enough that the population was there. But that was and that has stuck with me, because that was some of the first words that were said when I found out that we were going to have to move. And of course, no telephones. I couldn't get in touch with Mom and Dad, and I was just as upset all day long. And I was riding the school bus to work. They would let me ride the school bus from Dumbarton to Barnwell to work. And so when we got home that afternoon, oh, Daddy and Mama were so upset. And the first thing we did was get in the car, because the word was that you wouldn't have any time to make any plans. You were just going to have to move. And my mother had a sister that lived from this location about a mile up the road here, and she had a house that had some apartments in it, so we came running over here to tell her to be sure not to rent that, so if that was the case, we'd have a place to come. It was a long, hard day. But everybody was scared, just frightened to death. But then, of course, we had some time to get out. They announced it on November 28, 1950, and we finished moving in about April, the middle of April, 1952. What a house mover does is he brings in long steel timbers with wheels, and they jack the house up, and then they position the steel timbers under the house, and then they attach the wheels to those steel timbers, and then on the end of it they attach a truck for the source of power of moving. I remember that we left Dumbarton, we spent one night at Bell Pond, and then we spent many nights down here in the dirt until they could get the house on up here. But you remember, by the time the house got here, you had no running water. You had no bathroom facilities, and Daddy did build an outhouse for us here, so we would have that. But it was a long time in the making, and Daddy suffered tremendously. I don't think it bothered Mama quite as much as it did her sister, and Daddy had a time with it. But Daddy's biggest concern was the finances. When he died, he had nothing. There was not any part of moving easy. There was no one part of it easy. From the moving of the house to losing your friends to even after we were moved, the moving of the cemeteries. That's all. Every one of them was a challenge. But we came out smiling. I did.
I was born in the Midwest in Missouri and ended up living in 9 states before I got married, and 1 year in Argentina as well. Every now and then we would hear Dad say, "Girls, we're going to move soon." We always got our news of our next move from Dad. And Mother, of course, knew, but they never told us until it was pretty close to moving. But Mother, I must say, she was the force behind each move. We never had to leave any of our beloved belongings behind as little girls. She knew how to move like a beautiful pro. Well, we heard this news of the plant coming in December of 1950, 5 months before my high school graduation was supposed to take place in Bethesda, Maryland. But that wasn't to happen. Instead, I had my final high school ceremony at Richmond Academy, a recently converted boys' school in Augusta, Georgia. It was interesting to know all that he was responsible for. But from the years 1955 to 65, he had become manager for AEC. And in those 10 years, most of the biggest projects came to be fulfilled under his direction. In fact, he was presented by Glenn Seaborg, head of the AEC, their highest award. I feel like I finally began to read and learn what Dad was doing, and it was amazing to me, but then I had thought his engineer projects were amazing as well. I have missed him every day that he's been gone. He was very serious, very dedicated to whatever he did. He wanted you to do your best, but he was also very loving and very kind, and made just the perfect dad for 3 little girls. I would drive out with a carpool to the Ellington schoolhouse. It had its fans, but it was pretty steamy, but I loved what I was doing, typing incoming employees, personnel security questionnaires, PSQs. The second summer, a young man, nice-looking gentleman, walked up to my desk and perched on the edge of it and asked if I would like to go to dinner. And I said, well, thank you. Let me think about it. Come back later. And he left, and by the time he had gotten back to his personnel office, I called my mother. I asked her, I said, do you know who Jim McNair is? And she said, oh, yes, dear. We read about him quite frequently in Albert Howell's golf column. He's one of Aiken's best golfers. I think it would be all right. Well, I did go to dinner with Jim, and I later was happily married to him for many, many years. I love my husband for another very special reason, too. He introduced the game of golf to my dad in his retirement, and it was one of the greatest pleasures Dad had.
I am a mechanical engineer, or I was back when I was an honest working man, and a bachelor's degree from North Carolina State in 1950. Went to Penn State for a year, was called to active duty with the Army. I had a reserve commission. They sent me to Korea, spent 14 months in Korea. Came back from Korea, married Paula, went back to Penn State and finished my master's degree in mechanical engineering with a minor in nuclear. At the time, they didn't really have a nuclear engineering degree, but they did teach a couple of courses. And so I was officially, I think, the first graduate to get a minor in nuclear engineering at Penn State. I had planned to go for a PhD, and I had taken several courses toward the PhD, but I had a lot of trouble with my thesis project for my master's. I was at the point where I finally got the master's, or I saw that it was in sight. I was married, living on a GI Bill, pretty close to the bone, and I thought it would be good to go out and get take a break. A couple of years experience, get something on the resume, and earn a little bit of money, and then go back and finish the PhD. So I looked around and DuPont was interviewing. I went to my boss, or the gentleman who was helping me with my project, and Dr. Brazil, and I said, I see that DuPont is interviewing down at Savannah River. So what can you tell me about it? And he said, well, Walt, he said, do you still have your secret clearance from the Army? And I said, no, I had to give that up when I got separated. He says, well, then I can tell you authoritatively that it's near Aiken, South Carolina. That was all I knew. But sounded interesting, so we came down to look at the site, and they took me out and sat me in a room, and people came in every 30 minutes and talked to me, and some of them didn't introduce themselves. None of them told me what the job was. We just talked about engineering and in general. But they made it sound interesting because they were interesting people. And so when the offer came through, we talked about it and told Paula, well, this is only for a couple of years. We'll go down and get this on the resume. It'll look good. It's a startup. It's a new and exciting field. And then we'll go back and finish the PhD and see what we want to do when we grow up. But of course, the way it turned out, the first assignment was in the Savannah River Laboratory, and it was too exciting to leave. We worked a lot of overtime, and we put in time because of the job. When I started in the lab, computers were in their infancy. We had, we did most of our design work with slide rules, 3-place accuracy. And the computers that we had in the early days used punch cards. Yes, the job came home pretty regularly. And it's unfortunate, but it was the way it was. Coming to the site made a big difference because brought in a lot of diverse people, a lot of different backgrounds, different interests, different hobbies. And these people came in and they started things like the Little Theater, like Choral Society. They started clubs and held dances and did all kinds of activities. So by the time after the first few years, Aiken began to develop into the very rich cultural center that it is today. DuPont brought in people with lots of degrees and different degrees, but inevitably, when we got down here, we found that there were things that we didn't know that we needed to know. I think the basic lesson that I got from working at the site was that Americans are capable of doing some really marvelous things when they're properly led and motivated. I think leadership is the key. A leader who expresses a strong vision of what is wanted and provides the tools to get there, and then stands back and lets the gang do the work. We were blessed in the early days with having leaders who basically knew what we needed, knew what was needed. They knew what the government required. They were very safety focused and security focused, but they also knew to stand back and let the guys who were doing the work do the work. And I think that's a very important lesson that I learned. I had learned just a little bit of that in the Army, but I learned a lot more of it out at Savannah River.
three really different storylines, but in some sense chronological. I hope you enjoyed that. We have some time for some questions and answers. We're going to keep you on schedule so you get to the reception. The good thing is the three nonagenarians, and I think I got that correct, will be over there, and you can talk with them directly one-on-one as well. But before we leave, Miss Margaret asked me to ask her about her car. Her car is a 1927 Chevrolet. Margaret, you want to talk about your car?
Just a little bit. My dad bought this old car from the garage that was right next to our house, and we used it for everything. And we would get, my sister and I would get in, and we'd go around through the town, and we'd pick up all the girls. And then at the very beginning of the Savannah River site, they brought in a bunch of patrolmen to patrol the area. And these patrolmen would try to catch up with us. And because they were home, they were away from home, and they were lonely, and they were flirting, and we were running. At our church there was a big oak tree behind it, and they would follow us around and around and around. And we would scoot by the church and scoot back and scoot under the oak tree and cut the lights off, and they would just ride round and round and round. And after all these years, I got a hole left of the car, the 20-some odd that we called it, and it was our pride and joy, and we wrote everybody's name on it before we left Dumbarton.
So if you're ever in Williston, you can come by and see it, because we've been lucky enough to see it. Ellen, I'm going to go down and talk with you. First of all, I need to say, as a historian, I am in awe of the two women. Not to hurt your feelings, Walt. I'm not trying to leave you out. But Margaret and Ellen are incredible archivists. They have taken care of their family collections in a way that I rarely seen. And it's something to really think about, because some of the things that you saw in the Blair pictures, Margaret has a raft of Dunbarton photographs to save, to tell the stories about individuals and the places that they knew. And it's really commendable and something we don't necessarily see. So I need to say that first off. Well, I guess we need to know about romance on Savannah River site. I think probably a lot of us never think about romance on the Savannah River, or maybe we do. Maybe we do, and I don't know it. But as a historian, I better get with it. But when I heard your story, it was a wonderful story about meeting your husband, your future husband.
Somebody's got to help me. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
She asked about meeting your husband.
Pardon?
Ellen.
I can't hear you.
I gotcha. Okay. But we're talking about the romance that evolved at Savannah River site. That's something we don't necessarily talk about. That's why your story about meeting your husband while you were typing the PSQs down at Ellington is so important. Thank you. Thank you.
I cannot hear you.
I understand. It's okay. You covered it in the...
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Walt, what would you tell a young engineer today?
Oh, boy.
You've met a few. We've heard about a few who got awards. What do you think? We heard about your last statements are very powerful to me. But what would you tell a young person starting out?
It's, okay.
It could be long.
I gave a talk on this once, probably 50 years ago, to a group of young engineers. And what I would tell them today is a little different, but it'll start the same. Everybody has a boss, a leader. And what you want to do is to anticipate the leader's needs. A good leader will tell you where he wants you to go in general terms, and the best leaders will not tell you how to get there, but let you figure out how to get there. And so if you want him to learn to do that, and you help him by telling him things like, well, I understand what you want, Chief, and I know how to get there, I think. How would it be if we did this, and that? And he will say, yeah, good idea most times, because it saves him the trouble of having to figure it out himself. Now you want to do this. One other thing with leadership, the bosses are always busy. And what you don't want to do is run into a roadblock on your job and go to the boss and say, boss, I got a problem. Don't know what to do. Wrong. What you want to do is go to him with a slightly different approach. Boss, I've found what I think is an opportunity to solve this problem, and it's kind of oddball and a little bit screwy, but it might work, and it's worth a try. And the good boss will pick up on that and run with it, and if he doesn't recognize it the first time, he will the second or third time when it turns out your idea worked. So those are two things. Now, the third one that I would recommend strongly to you was the last one on my list for this group I talked to earlier, and it was have a helpful spouse. Now, I cannot tell you how helpful a helpful spouse can be. When I started as an engineer, Paula was not capable of helping me because I couldn't tell her what I did. And for years that went on, but gradually it got to the point where I could tell her a little bit about things, and I discovered that she was a great sounding board and that she learned it quickly and was a real help in solving problems. Problem solving is where you find it. It is not necessarily in academia or in books. You learn things, your intuition works. Get all the help you can get. Solve problems. Above all, try to leave the world a little better place than you found it. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is. Now, we don't all get to discover penicillin, but I like to think that my help in figuring out what neutron irradiation does to stainless steel is helping advance causes all over the world that I know nothing about. Take that to heart and find those causes and fill those niches.
All right, I'm going to try another round of questions before we probably have to end. Margaret, I mentioned to you, Margaret, that when the houses were moved in the video, you explained how they were moved mechanically. And my question was to you is, as a family, how do you get ready to move what's inside your house, like the dishes, all that sort of thing? How did that happen in your family? What preparation was needed?
Well, the house left out of Dumbarton on Highway 39, went out to 39, and what is now 278, it went in the direction of Barnwell. We spent one night on the road, and they pulled us off in a churchyard. You didn't dare leave the house. We slept in it that night. The eggs rolled off the counters and broke, and some of the dishes came out of the counter and broke. but it was a horrible trip from Dunbarton to Elko. And in case of you don't know where Elko is, you don't know what you're missing. It's right out of Williston. We got our house moved. It was an extremely difficult thing, but we did wind up at Elko with some dishes.
We can entertain one or two questions from the audience.
I just want to say this has been one of my favorite Teller lectures. But my question is for Walt Joseph. Walt, you had a long career at the site, doing a lot of different things. What was your favorite job?
I started out in the lab, and it was wonderful. I was doing things that people really didn't know how to do, and we were learning as we went, and it was exciting and a lot of fun. But then I was transferred to the plant, and the plant turned out to be probably I guess it was one of my most interesting jobs. I ran an organization called Traffic and Transportation, which ran the railroad. It also mowed all the lawns. We had riggers, we had construction guys, and I'm a hands-on kind of fellow, so I tried to be wherever my guys were working on a given shift. And that meant that I've spent some time breaking down beaver dams that were blocking roads when they flooded ponds on the site. It meant that I got up on top of coal silos, and I don't really like heights either, but but I did it. And it meant that I got to drive the switch engine, delivering coal down in the 400 area on shift only, when night shift, because they didn't want me to be seen doing that. But it was a fun job, but I learned about people there in a real way, because I found that the guys who were breaking down the beaver dams and cleaning the tubes and the boilers and so on were contributing, and they were working as hard as they knew how, and if they had the right tools, they'd probably get a little bit more done. So I tried hard to provide the tools and the equipment that they needed to get the job done and to be proud of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you one story, and then I'll quit. My story on that subject is the baby blue beast. We had a fleet of heavy trucks, but one of them was a special custom-built truck that pulled the trailers where contaminated waste was shipped, where all kinds of radioactive material was shipped. It had been bought new with the plant, and it needed an overhaul while I was in that department. And I was superintendent of the department, and so it went for an overhaul, and the overhaul was hundreds of thousands of dollars. It was a big deal. We got it, and the truck came back. They had been totally rebuilt, and I went to see it, and the fenders were still dented, and the paint was chipped here and there, and it looked like a 25, 30-year-old truck that had had a hard life. And so I went to the supervisor there, and I said, why don't we paint it? He said, we don't paint trucks. I said, well, there's a paint shop. What does it do? Well, it's not being used very much. I went down to the paint shop, and I found the guy who was a painter. He said, yeah, we haven't painted a truck in a while, but he said, we could do it. So I said, fine. So I went back to the supervisor. I said, let's paint that truck. And he said, well, okay, I'll look into it. So I went back to my office, and shortly thereafter, the phone rang. Walt, we don't have any gray paint. I said, for the truck? Yeah, we're out of gray paint. I said, so that means you won't paint it, right? What colored paint do you have? At this point, I'm getting a little bit annoyed. And he said, I'll call you back. A little while later, he calls back. He said, and I could hear the chuckle in his voice. He said, Walt, all we have is baby blue. I said, paint it baby blue. And the truck was forevermore known as the baby blue beast. The driver was so proud of it, he had the plant photographer come out and get a picture of it that he could take home. And he came in personally to paint the white walls white.
Thank you. I think we have to end on the baby blue beast. But there's more stories to come, more stories to tell. Please, we're going to close up. I want to thank you for liking. I appreciate the comment on the video. I think how fortunate we are to have 3 90-year-olds here to tell us this story. It's just an amazing, amazing time tonight. So good night and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. For those that I've not yet met, I'm Allison Hamilton. I'm the Executive Director of Citizens for Nuclear Technology Awareness. As a thank you for the presenters, we are doing a donation over to the Savannah Riverside Museum in their honor. And we also have these beautiful poinsettias that all of our presenters and our award winners get to take home with them, so please don't leave without one. This is an amazing event. This is an amazing opportunity. This is being recorded and will be available on CNTA's YouTube page in mid-December. So for those of you who would like to see it again or see the video again, it will all be publicly available in mid-December. Just very quickly, CNTA was founded to help support the Savannah River Site and advocate for the Savannah River Site, and I'm proud that we can be a part of their 75th anniversary. We, in addition to having this event and being part of the 75th, we have done a Nuclear Science Week magazine that you can find on the table where you checked in. Please take a copy as you leave tonight. It celebrates all the things nuclear in our community, including Augusta University Nuclear Medicine Technology, including what is happening at Southern Nuclear. So take that and enjoy. And at this time, we are going to adjourn over to Newberry. Please be careful as you cross the street. Traffic is open. The road is not closed. So watch as you are crossing. And I hope to see you at the reception. Thank you so much for being here tonight.